Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts. Please be sure to listen to our important message following this episode regarding the risks of investing in exchange-traded options.
And so, like I talked about, short a straddle on a basket of euro, yen, and Canadian dollar. Long a straddle on a basket of SPY, QQQ, and Russell, or ESNQ, or TF is the exchange symbol for that across some different exchanges out there. Conversely, think that the gold right now has some real potential in it. We've seen implied vols on gold come way down. Think that right now, based on what's taking place, is a little bit. There's some definitely opportunity there. Whereas the implied vols on crude, I mean, we've seen the gold crude relationship oscillate all the way between 6 and up to 28 or 30. And I think the crude right now, you can set up a very interesting long straddle on gold and silver, okay, with what's playing out, and also a short straddle or short volatility position on crude out there. And so with these positions right here, you're seeing me take on exposure, really more or less the 4 different asset classes, between equities, between currencies, between obviously the precious metal space, being long straddle on gold and silver, and then the energies as well. And what's important about this as well is that when you get a day like today, you get a day like non-farm payrolls coming out. I mean, I have a very set plan of how I'm going to manage around that. This is while I have the option positions out there, because I'm aware of what my risk exposure is, and okay, what's my net? I'm short how many Vega on crude right now? I'm long how many Vega on gold right now? I'm long how many Vega SPYs, Qs, Russell right now? And so, if certain things happen, how do I want to trade the news releases that come out? Well, if non-farm on Friday is going to be a big factor in how ultimately I come in and decide to adjust my exposure. So if we come out and if non-farms has another upside surprise, I do think short term that we can take a down move. The euro can come under pressure again, all right? And maybe under that, the S&P explodes to the upside and rallies with 1,200. So even though I'm slightly bearish, I can, potentially mitigate my way around some of the euro exposure I have, or some of the short vol exposure I have in the currencies, and maybe turn my straddle into a covered buy right position on the S&P. And so this is a template with which I'm working from a longer time frame, but it still allows me the maneuverability that when you set up the options positions, and now I can trade the underlying to set it up. And I think that's where the ISE options really become very beneficial to put on these respective positions. So again, what a little bit like that looks like the Iron Condor position. This Feb expires, and February is expiring about 40 days from now. We're looking at, this is that Iron Condor flat, more or less saying that we're going to kind of stay within this range on the Japanese yen. You could put that across on the YUK, the YUK for the ICE products. A similar strategy, short a bear call spread, long a bull put spread, and capture that respective range. So everything I'm talking to you guys here today, you can use using those ISE products out there. In terms of the long straddle on the S&P, for one contract, you could apply this on the SPYs as well. Obviously, I'm gonna have to do some gamma scalping and pay some of that rent. The compression from the last couple of days doesn't necessarily bode well, but when gamma explodes. So I'm getting pieced up a little bit on the theta there. I'm picking up theta on my on the other side of my portfolio. In terms of the metals out there right now, looking at gold out here, obviously long a straddle there. This is the March, so they expire in mid-February. In terms of where the futures are at, the options expire on the third Friday of every month, so keep that in mind. But as of this time, now it's 51 days till expiration. A little bit about what I have going on coming up here, and then I'll head into questions. Doing the New York Traders Expo coming up in February. Would love to meet up with anyone who's out in the Northeast or going to be traveling to New York during that time period. I'm also doing a Going Pro webinar, so everything I just talked about in terms of like traders who are looking to go to the next level. If you're trading right now and want to trade professionally, I definitely have the experience that you probably you can pick my brain a little bit. It's free of charge, and that goes on next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. My book I wrote, One Shot, One Kill Trading. I work with, again, a number of managers, sell-side firms, present for exchanges, have different articles coming out. I'm probably going to be traveling to India in March to speak at a conference out there. So I love this business. I love just the thrill and the competition and the camaraderie that's formed by it. The closest thing I can get to the Marine Corps since I got out after spending 9 years in the Marines. And so just a little bit about what this Going Pro workshop, I think this is very important because irrespective of where you're at in the trading spectrum, if you're someone that runs 50 or 100 million, or you're someone that runs 50,000 and you're looking to take the next step, these are the things I'm going to be talking about. So options as a professional trader, meaning your choices, your career choices, not options per se, but I will talk about that too. Do you want to be a proprietary trader? Do you want to run a hedge fund? Those are two choices that exist out there, and I'm going to cover the pros and cons for both. And again, this is free of charge to attend, so there's no risk. Just send in the information to info@osoctrading.com. Raising assets. If you have a strategy that's making money, but you're having a hard time getting capital for it, I'm going to discuss different things you can do, different ways you can go about in some really creative ways, I think, of taking what you have and growing the assets there. Talk about regulation. I'm a member of the NFA. Talk about some of the FINRA requirements as well. What filings are required? When do you have to register? And then from a back office standpoint, how do you handle things like reporting? How do you handle things like payroll, or dealing with expenses, or dealing with reporting to investors when it comes to your returns, and how to properly report those returns? This will all be a component and a factor of this workshop. It's probably going to go 45 minutes to an hour, a lot of Q&A, and we've just had a tremendous feedback from people from when I've done this live. I did this presentation in Los Angeles at the Traders Expo in LA back in June, and I did it in New York as well. So there's a lot of people looking who have money, who want to take the next step, but they just don't know. I mean, there's a lot of overwhelming components here, and I have a lot of experience and have a lot of colleagues with a lot of experience that can help you grow in that regard. So definitely check that out for free. A lot of information is going to be shared there. In terms of the presentation, we talked about the options basics and background of the Greeks. Also went over some strategies to build a dynamic volatility portfolio across asset classes. A little bit of real-time market application where I discussed everything that's coming up in terms of the non-farm payroll number, and then upcoming projects in terms of what's taking place there. And everyone can sign up to that panel that I have going on. I have a question here, so definitely for those of you out there, please go to my website, OSOK Trading, and send an info at osoctrading.com, and we'll go from there. Questions? Got all that in 45 minutes.
I have a question, John.
Sure.
I think we have a diverse audience. I know that some folks have been trading for many, many years, and they trade all the asset classes, and some folks are sort of brand new. How do you start? Let's just start, at the beginning. How do you go from someone that's looking at buying a call or buying a put to spread trading, and then selling options to correlation trades? How does that all? How much time would somebody need to do all that? Where could they learn more about moving through the stages of trading?
Sure, great question, Steve. Thank you. The market in becoming a trader is like any other process. It's very much an evolution. It's very much a marathon and not a race. The Chinese have a saying in terms of how you eat an elephant, and that's one bite at a time. And so for me, a lot of this comes to being that, I wouldn't necessarily think about putting on a currency trade, as a means of being anticipation, but when or in terms of anticipating market movement, but when the markets talk to you, there's a message behind what they're doing. And I think it's important that we all listen to that. Now, as a trader that maybe doesn't want to trade 4 or 5 or 6 different asset classes, start with one thing. But as we've seen in the last year, though, Steve, these asset classes for the most part have been strongly correlated. So if you've been long euro, you've been long S&P, you've been long Aussie. In many cases, you've been long bonds, you've been long gold. The only thing you've been short is the dollar during that time.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. To find more podcasts on options, stocks, alternative markets, and market data, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts.